What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with the college football rankings 1 to 133. And in this video, you get to see my preseason top 25. But before I get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below to be entered in our giveaway at 500 subscribers. 25, I have the North Carolina Tar Heels out of the ACC. They get a tough matchup to start the year going against their rival South Carolina. And this team, it's all going to come on Drake May. If he can have a great year, then this team could be one of those dark horses to not just beat Clemson, but possibly win the ACC this year. 24, I have the North Carolina State Wolfpack, another team out of the ACC that could be that dark horse to win the conference. The big thing for them is Brennan Armstrong, the transfer quarterback from Virginia. Can he step in to replace Devin Leary and repeat the success they had last year? 23, I have the Iowa Hawkeyes. And with this team, to say the least, last year was a disappointment going 7-6. But they have impact transfers from Michigan, Cade McNamara and Eric All, looking to make this offense something you'd want to watch rather than just have their defense carry them to those 7 wins. 22, I have Ole Miss, and Ole Miss is pretty much relying on Jackson Dart to carry this team yet again. Last year they struggled, finished 1-5 to finish the year, and they have A&M, Georgia, and Arkansas in those last 4 games for the regular season. And those are tough games that they have to win if this team really wants to have a shot at the SEC title. 21 is South Carolina, and I mentioned him earlier. Spencer Rattler is expected to be one of the best quarterbacks, not in the country, but just not in the SEC, but in the country as well. And this is a make or break year for them. If they finish 10-2, maybe win with a bowl game 11-2, it's a very respectable year. But I don't see this team making the college football playoff this year. 20, I have Wisconsin. And I think they are going to be better than a lot of people think because Luke Fickell is taking over. And they don't really have tough matchups. Iowa and Ohio State at home are their 2 toughest games. And to me, that's looking like 10-2, possibly 11-1 if everything goes according to plan. 19, Texas A&M here. This team, I'm not really sure how they're going to go after this year. They went 5-7 last year. The Connor Wingman has qualities to thrive in the offense, but can he put it all together this year? And the NLI funds are cut after the IRS memo that got sent out a few weeks ago. So maybe A&M's losing a few players money-wise, but I think A&M is looking to go at least 8-4 this year. 18, I have TCU. And, they're going to take a step back this year unless somehow they can win it all this year. And I don't think that's going to happen after all they lost. The only good thing coming in this year is obviously getting running back transfer Trey Sanders from Alabama. 17, Kansas State. Not much to be said here. Will Howard, is easing this transition without Deuce Vaughn in the backfield. It's going to be tough for them, but can they repeat as Big 12 champions? 16, I have Notre Dame. And this team could be right back in a 12-0 conversation when it's all said and done because of how Sam Hartman is. Sam Hartman, the transfer from Wake Forest, makes this team a college football playoff hopeful. Their 2 toughest games, well, 3 toughest, are at Clemson, home against Ohio State, and then USC as well. And if they can win 2 of those 3, they might sneak into a college football playoff berth. 15, I have Texas. And Quinn Ewers, can he step up, go to Alabama this year, and get that win? That's going to be the biggest question for Texas this year. If they can get that, then you might start hearing the Texas is back. 14, Oregon State. DJ Ugalele, the Clemson transfer, comes all the way out west to get a new start and hopefully have a better career than what he's had so far. I don't know. It's just an interesting time here for the Pac-12. Can they win more than likely the last Pac-12 championship ever? Another Pac-12 team is Oregon. Bo Nix returns for, I think, his 6th year, but it really feels like his 10th. Failure of a season if this team doesn't reach the Pac-12 championship? I think, yes, that's what we're at with Oregon right now. And they didn't get hurt, Bo Nix speaking, last year. This team could have been a college football playoff contender, and they were just right there. But, he went down and it was just a completely different team. And if he stays healthy, who knows what would have happened. 12, I have the Clemson Tigers out of the ACC. And this team is relying on Cade Klubnik or bust. If he does not succeed, then they might need to look in another change. But they hired Garrett Riley, brother of Lincoln Riley, from TCU. And, you saw last year how much TCU scored. Well, I think Clemson's looking to do the exact same. 11, just missing the top 10, are the Florida State Seminoles out of the ACC. And what do they get week one? Number 7, LSU. And this team, it's going to be make or break. If they can beat LSU and Clemson this year, then there's no doubt in my mind that this team will coast to 12-0 and into a playoff spot. But if they lose both, I think then they're going to start to hit the fan and probably finish 8-4. But Jordan Travis has to prove that he can be the guy week one. Even if they do lose this game, it's got to be close, or a lot of Florida State fans are going to be upset. Starting the top 10, I have Washington kicking it off here. And Michael Penix Jr., last year was great. And let's see if he can repeat his performance last year, almost averaging 40 points per game last year. And this year, they do have a tough schedule to close the year. USC and Utah on back-to-back weeks will decide if this team will have a chance come December for a playoff. Another Pac-12 team is Utah. Cameron Rising, he is the big question mark coming in this year. How is he going to perform after tearing his ACL in the Rose Bowl last year? Is he on track to return for game one? It looks like he is, but they haven't announced anything yet. And if he comes in, beats Florida, starts picking up momentum just like he was last year, this team will be a dark horse college football playoff contender. 8, I have Tennessee, and it's going to be tough for them to have the season they had last year. Joe Milton, though, looks like he can fill the shoes of Hendon Hooker, but the defense is going to determine Tennessee's season this year. I don't think it's going to be the offense. It's going to be the defense. At 7, LSU. And, I mentioned it already. They play Florida State week one. Whoever wins this game week one is going to take a huge boost in the standings. Whoever loses, well, unfortunately, your season might be over right then and there because you got to win out more than likely to get into a playoff. If you want to reflect on last year, SEC championship in Brian Kelly's first year is a huge success. Jaden Daniels is looking great and possibly the best returning quarterback in SEC other than Spencer Rattler. And these Tigers, it feels like they are due to get back into an SEC championship, not only just to play in it, but to win it. At 6, I have USC, and Caleb Williams comes back, and which is more than likely his final year before he goes pro, looking to win the Heisman again and lead his team to college football playoff after being so close last year and losing in that Pac-12 championship game. If they can win that game last year, more than likely they're in, and who knows what happens, but this year, they got to put that in the past and look to repeat the performance, except take it one step further. Starting the top 5, I have Penn State, and a lot of people still aren't on that Penn State bandwagon yet. Drew Aller looks like he can be probably the second best quarterback in the Big Ten. And, filling Sean Clifford's shoes at Penn State is a tough task, but if they can somehow beat Michigan and Ohio State in the same year, then this Nittany Lions team more than likely will be the number 2 team in the country unless Georgia loses. At 4, I have Alabama, and the big story for them is who's going to be the starting quarterback. Jalen Milroe, Ty Simpson, and Tyler Buckner from Notre Dame are all still fighting for that spot, and Saban still doesn't know, but they're all going to get some action week one, and you're just going to have to monitor who does good, who does bad, and it might be a revolving door here at quarterback. 3 are the Ohio State Buckeyes, and they are also in a quarterback battle as well with Kyle McCord or Devin Brown. But when you have Marvin Harrison Jr. out there, it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is because he is that good. He could win the Heisman this year and be the fourth receiver all time to win the Heisman, and first since Devonta Smith won it in 2020. But their biggest question mark, end of the year, end of November, can they end the 2-year skid against Michigan? And if they lose it this year, then there might be some question marks around Ryan Day, and he possibly might be on the hot seat. At 2 are the Michigan Wolverines, and they have a lot of unfinished business here. Blake Corum coming back just shows that, he's not just in it to go pro, but he has something else to prove here this year. Getting hurt against Illinois really, really hurt their chances in the college football playoff, but they still almost won that game. And I think if Corum's there, no doubt in my mind, they'd win that game. And they've had the best offensive line in the last 2 years, won the award. Can they make it 3 years? More than likely. Didn't really lose a lot. And Jim Harbaugh suspended 3 games for buying someone a cheeseburger on a recruiting visit, which is insane to me just because of how the SEC gets away with more things than those little things. So I mean, it is what it is, but it's the first three games where Michigan should. And at one, of course, are the back-to-back champions, the Georgia Bulldogs. They ranked second this year in the recruiting class. Their thing is who's going to win the quarterback battle after Stetson Bennett leaves, Carson Beck or Brock Vandergriff. Doesn't really matter though when Brock Bowers across the middle is just going to be a matchup nightmare. The Travis Kelce of college football, looking to prove that he can be a top 10 pick next year. And one negative though for Georgia is Brandon Robinson, more than likely one of their starting running backs, is out for the year with an injury. And that's going to be a big blow for them. Maybe not early, but in later games in the SEC. But that's going to be it for my preseason top 25. Make sure you guys come back in a few weeks to see what the rankings are after week 1. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.